الحمد لله وكفى وسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وإذ نجيناكم من آل فرعون يسومونكم سوء العذاب يذبحون أبناءكم ويستحيون نساءكم وفي ذلكم بلاء من ربكم عظيم صدق الله العظيم. In continuation of the discussion related to sihr and magic, we went over some of the implications and the aspects of the dark arts, how they came about. The shayateen or the devils put inside the minds of the rabbis that there is a way to distort the Torah, to cause harm. Of course, even the shayateen themselves did not know how to use it in that way. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has kept the ilm of wahi with Himself. Wahi comes from Him, the benefits come from Him, and also if it is ever to be utilized in a way to harm someone, that in the ilm is also with Him. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent two angels to Babylon, and these two angels are the names of Harut and Marut. They were instructed to teach the people how to utilize the wahi in order to even harm someone. Remember, it does not befit the status of a nabi to teach someone how to harm people. So that is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not send a nabi to do this. But also sihr and magic itself, it is haram. And the Anbiya alayhim wassalam, they're sinless, they're ma'soom, they're innocent. But as far as the malaika are concerned, malaika don't have any good deeds or bad deeds. To them it is all the ahkam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They follow whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands them to do. They don't have this concept of disobedience. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered these two angels that yes, someone wants to learn this sihr, teach them, but make it clear to them, إِنَّمَا نَحْنُ فِتْنَا فَلَا تَكْفُرْ, that we are a trial for you. So don't do kufr, don't involve in this kind of kufr or disbelief. But if the people demanded to learn it, then those angels were ordered to teach them. This sihr, the way it works, is that there are specific ayat or a specific ayat that are written in a particular order, depending on what type of effect they're looking for. I'm only going to explain a few different ways that they do it. That they write those ayat in a particular way, distorting some of the words within the wahi taken from the Torah. And when they distort some of those words, change some of those words, sometimes the writing is done in various types of ink. Sometimes blood is used. Sometimes the blood of an animal is used. Sometimes the blood of a human is used. Sometimes the magician himself will prick himself and use that blood. Again, this is the highest form of kufr, disbelief. To use something impure and write the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that is why the level of kufr involved in these things, it makes a person a kafir very, very openly. But when they write those ayat with those distorted words, those words that are changed, then the magician or the sahir will try and gain access to the person they want to do the sihr on. They'll try to gain access to some part of their body, either their hair or their nail. And that hair or nail has to have come off the body within the last 40 days. If it is more than 40 days, the effect or the impact is not the way it should be, or it doesn't have any impact. That is why it is the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam that whenever we cut our nails or Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would cut his hair, he would have it buried. He used to have it buried so that it was not accessible. And also once it is buried, the effect is completely gone. There's no way to use it for sihr or magic. And we can dispose of it in ways that people will not be able to gain access to it. Once the magician gains access to the hair or the nail or some other part of the body that they can gain access to, they will put that piece inside that writing. They'll tie up the writing, and then they'll recite whatever they wrote down. They'll also recite that. And while they're reciting it, they'll take a rope and they'll tie that particular inscription inside a rope. They'll tie knots. And those knots is where most of the sihr or the magic, where the power of it starts. And the magician then blows, or the sahir will then blow whatever he has recited or she has recited on those knots. Once they blow on those knots, that's when the effect starts. The magician will always try to hide those knots or that rope. They'll try to put it in a place that is not easily accessible. They'll either throw it in a well, or they'll bury it, somewhere in a place where no one can gain access to it, or it's very difficult to find. Once they do this, the effect starts. There are various kinds of effects that a magician will be able to use or utilize. They'll be able to make someone become very, very forgetful. They'll make someone lose their level of intellect or intelligence. They'll be able to cause someone to become sick, various kinds of incurable sicknesses. There's also the aspect of affecting someone's emotions. A person loses complete control. His family will leave him. His friends will leave them. Other aspects and other types of results that they try and seek. Depending on what type of results the sahir is seeking, those are the types of verses that are used. That is the part of the body that will be used from the person. And it has its own formulas. It is a very, very dangerous type of sihr, and it affects all of us. It is very, very powerful. It affected Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed that to happen so that the rest of the ummah can also have a cure from it or a defense against it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then revealed Mu'awwadhatayn, قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ, and also قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ. In قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about this type of sihr. قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ مِنْ شَرِّ مَا خَلَقَ وَمِنْ شَرِّ غَاسِقٍ إِذَا وَقَبَ وَمِنْ شَرِّ النَّفَّاثَاتِ فِي الْعُقَدِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells in Surah Al-Falaq that we are seeking the refuge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala مِنْ شَرِّ النَّفَّاثَاتِ فِي الْعُقَدِ, from the evil of those witches that blow on knots. Okay, this is the main type of sihr, the main way that it works. There are other ayat in the Quran, and inshallah once we get to the ruqya, we'll go over all those ayat that are effective in curing a person from this and also seeking protection from this type of sihr. But this is how generally the sahir or the magician will affect people. Now, there are various myths related to this. Those myths come from the way that magic is practiced. We have already mentioned that when the magicians would try and teach people, so what the shayateen or the devils did is that they killed those magicians who were teaching people. And they kept this art to themselves. And when they did this type of monopoly, anyone that wanted to learn sihr would have to go to the shayateen. You have to literally sell your soul to the shaitan or to the devil. Now the shaitan or the shayateen, they want to see human beings disgraced. So they will always ask the person to do certain types of sacrifices that are extremely intense and extremely, very, very dishonoring. They'll try to dishonor the person, try to disgrace the person. Very disgraceful acts. They'll ask them to either kill a human being or kill an animal. Another thing the shaitan might do is tell him to adopt an animal for 1 year, become connected with it, and then the shaitan will ask him to kill that animal. Sometimes the shaitan will ask them to involve in extreme filth, to live their life very, very filthy. Tell them not to clean themselves, and to go through very prolonged periods of time without even using any kind of water or washing themselves. So these are some of the ways that people go about serving the shaitan. And the shaitan, he takes great pleasure in this. Because you have to remember, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already mentioned the story of Adam alayhi salam. When Adam alayhi salam, he was created, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered the malaika or the angels to do sajda to Adam alayhi salam. At that time, Iblis or shaitan, because of his arrogance, did not do sajda. And because of that arrogance and refusal to do sajda, he was disgraced. He was humiliated. So shaitan took it upon himself to humiliate humanity and humiliate human beings. He loves to see human beings get humiliated. So he'll tell them to do very, very despicable acts. Now these acts don't have anything to do with sihr themselves, but they have to do with a person who wants to learn that sihr. They become very, very despicable people in society, involved in various types of haram. And then after all those kind of sacrifices that they give for the shaitan, so then the shaitan will teach them and give them. And shaitan promises them power. But the reality of the promises of shaitan is that they're nothing but a deception. And shaitan, he doesn't fulfill his promises. But he does teach them the sihr in ways that they're able to affect people or destroy people and harm people. People seek power in these things. Those who are after this, they try and seek power with it. They try and seek position with it. They try and seek wealth with it. Whatever they're seeking, at the end of the day, they go through extreme humiliation and disgrace. And once the shaitan sees that, then the shaitan will teach them this type of sihr. Now, it has to be understood, and we should also understand that for those who are seeking respect, those who are seeking power, those who are seeking whatever they're seeking, you need to understand that everything is in the control of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Man kana yuridu al-izzata falillahi al-izzatu jami'a. Whosoever is seeking honor and respect, remember that honor and respect is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all of it. If we're seeking power and position or wealth, whatever it might be, we have access to speaking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and making dua. And through the beautiful deen of Islam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us such formulas that in a very, very respectful and honorable way, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give us those things. As far as this strange sihr or magic of this dunya or whatever world we might be seeking, that, shaitan, he'll promise us things, I'll make you fly, or I will do this and I will do that for you. If you just close your eyes, you can imagine yourself flying, But shaitan, he'll make you, I will make you fly, and I will, do all these things for you. This is a story of one of the awliya. One of the friends of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the sahir came to him. He had come out of his class with all of his students, so one of the magicians came to him. They relate the story about Shaykh Abdul Qadir Jilani rahmatullah alayhi. Some say it was some other shaykh. Anyhow, the moral of the story is amazing, is that the sahir or the magician came to him and said, you have all these students learning deen, but do they have any power after that? And the shaykh told him, what do you mean, what power, what you're talking about? He said, I'm a sahir, I'm a magician, I can fly. The shaykh told him, really? You can fly? He said, yeah, I can fly. He said, okay, fly. The person started flying, So the shaykh told him, that's the highest you can go higher. The man said, this is the highest I can go. As far as I can go. The shaykh said, that's it. He said, yeah. He said, okay. Shaykh started reciting Ayat al-Kursi, And the man fell down. He said, where's your power now? This it, finished. The shaitan ran away, So that was the end of his power. One ayat al-Kursi was enough to make the shaitan run away. So this is one thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us, these ayat, and given us the Quran. Whatever power they may have, you recite these ayat. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam himself told us the effect of ayat al-Kursi. Shayateen, they don't come close to a person who recites ayat al-Kursi. Or they don't go into that area. Why? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends down malaik or angels. And where there are angels, the shayateen don't hang around that area for too long, It's like criminals, When they see the police, they go the other way. So this is the effect and the impact that the ayat or the wahi has. We should not be so impressed that, this sahir or this magician can do these amazing things. There's nothing amazing about what they're doing. They're destroying people. They try to impress people so people will follow their way. This is one of the things that they try to do. They try to impress people, put out this display. There's nothing in that display. There's strange things that are not even human. And these are things that are very, very temporary for some time. And they'll harm themselves in various ways. But that's to put on a display so that people may follow. They may gain followers. But this is nothing but a deception. So we should not fall for these things or seek this kind of power in any way. So this is how sihr works. And this is how the sahirin, they affect their magic. There are those, sometimes the sahir will ask the people to come in the full moon. And he'll make them act like dogs, So that's where this myths of this werewolf and these things come from. And for a few days, a person is acting like an animal in the woods, This is one of the ways that shaitan humiliates people. Sometimes the shaitan will tell people to drink the blood. This is where these folk tales come from, all these vampires or whatever they have. All these things come from this. The origin, when you go back, this is what shaitan is asking the people to do in his service, disgracing themselves and harming themselves. Then at the end, shaitan will give them this type of sihr or this magic, or give them this kind of whatever, very brief power it might be. So this is how sihr works, and this is how the sahirin implement their magic, or the dark arts in essence. They ended up combining a lot of these verses and a lot of these skills in various books that they had. At that time, one of them was a Talmud, and there was a few other books that they, in story format, they hid a lot of these formulas inside those books. For those who are expert within those fields can pick out those formulas. But there's no benefit in even learning this science. It's very, very dangerous science, and it's useless. The person who himself is harming others, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will eventually destroy that person. How far are you going to go harming the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? You know, how careful are we when someone harms us? We may not care much. When someone touches our children, or touches our friends, or harms those that we love and we care about, how long will we let that person do that? Eventually we'll stand up and we'll destroy the person. We'll try and stop the person. We'll make whatever effort we can to get rid of that person. Similarly, these sahirin, for some time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives them a chance. لِكُلِّ أُمَّةٍ أَجَلٍ. Every nation has its time. Every people are given a time. But once that time runs out, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroys the sahir. That is why for a very long time the sahirin are not successful. For a very long time. Yes, few cases here and there. They may harm people. Eventually Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts them in such conditions that their lives are made miserable. And then they realize that there's no benefit in what they're doing. So these are the different forms of sihr that we went through. Some of the ways to protect ourselves from a lot of this type of sihr. There are 3 types of sihr that we went over. The 3 types that are mentioned in the Quran. And the 3rd type is also mentioned in a few places in the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the 3rd type of sihr in a few places in the Quran. هَلْ أُنَبِّئُكُمْ عَلَى مَنْ تَنَزَّلُ الشَّيَاطِينَ تَنَزَّلُ عَلَى كُلِّ أَفَّاكٍ أَثِيمٍ يُلْقُونَ السَّمْعَ وَأَكْثَرُهُم كَاذِبُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, shall we not inform you of those people who the shayateen come down to them? That the shayateen, they come to them and give them information. And that the shayateen are friends with these kind of people. تَنَزَّلُ عَلَى كُلِّ أَفَّاكٍ أَثِيمٍ. They come down to every afak and athim, person who are involved. Afak is very, very filthy sins. Sins that involve extreme filth. And athim, they're sinners. They're people who have incurred upon themselves the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So these are the kind of people that the shayateen come down to. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, تَنَزَلُ عَلَى كُلِّ أَفَاكٍ أَثِيمٍ يُلْقُونَ السَّمْعَ وَأَكْثَرُهُمْ كَاذِبُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says the majority of them, whatever even they say, majority of them are liars. They are the soothsayers and the magicians and the psychics, whatever they claim. So these are the various kinds of people that the shayateen come to. And the shayateen will give them information and teach them these kind of strange things. The other comes in Ayat in Surat Baqarah, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the shayateen at the time of Sulaiman alayhi salam. And the qissa or the story of Harut and Marut and Babel. And that is coming on later in Surat Baqarah. So this is the aspect or the concept of the dark arts or the sihr that affects and destroys people. Coming to the protection against these kinds of sihr. The first type of sihr is just illusions. And the reality of illusions is that if you know how the trick is done, or you realize that this person is fooling me, so then they cannot fool you. Their main purpose of doing that kind of sihr is to make us afraid. So when a person is not afraid, so their power is gone. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in that ayat of the Quran in Surah Al-A'raf, سَحَرُوا أَعْيُنَ النَّاسُ وَاسْتَرْهَبُوهُم. They were doing sihr to show illusions to the eyes of the people and try to make them afraid. So if you're not afraid, it's very simple, don't be afraid. When you're not afraid, then nothing can happen. Their magic is made useless. This is the first type, very easy. So to understand that whatever they're doing is nothing but a deception, and don't be afraid of it. Bas. Then whatever they do, it won't affect you. That's the first type of sihr, to protect yourself against illusions. The second type, which is the psychic type of sihr, which they used against Musa alayhi salam, mentioned in Surah Taha, which we already went over. يُخَيَّلُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ سِحْرِهِمْ أَنَّهَا تَسْعَى فَأَوْجَسَ فِي نَفْسِهِ خِيفَةً مُوسَى. When they did the psychic type of magic on Musa alayhi salam, affecting him psychically, at that time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the ayat in Surah Taha, فَأَوْجَسَ فِي نَفْسِهِ خِيفَةً مُوسَى. Musa alayhi salam, he felt a kind of fear, very, very deep fear inside. We say in English, it shook him to the core. As human beings, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created a very magnificent system in this human body. Whenever we get sick, the body starts working. There's a defense mechanism, the immune system starts. Similarly, that's from the physical side. When you go to the psychological side, anything that affects us psychologically, we also have the same response. The body reacts, the mind reacts. And that reaction comes in the form of fear. There's a fear involved with it. Right? It alerts the body that something is going on. Sometimes when we feel, what is pain? Pain is alerting the body that something isn't right. Right? So similarly, when somebody tries to affect a human being psychically or psychologically, so also there's this impulse, letting the ruh and the body know something isn't right. Somebody's trying to invade, Some kind of invasion is going on. There's illegal immigrants. No. But I'm just saying that this kind of invasion is going on. So the mind reacts. There's a reaction that happens. And that reaction happens in the form of fear. So the person, you tense up. This is the whole idea of people going to the jinn possessions and those kind of things. Also, human beings can also possess us. Sometimes we think, really? Yes. What do you think all these advertisements are for? These ads, what are they? They're to affect us, to make us want the things that they're advertising for us. And they invest billions into it. Don't throw away your items. I'm not, Shaykh said that there was advertisement. I bought this thing because of an ad. Let me throw this away. No. Okay. You utilize those things. I'm just sharing with you that we human beings were affected by that also. It's a subtle type of effect. But the more intense effect is the psychic attack. Where a person tries to invade your mind. And there are ways that it is done. It is done through extreme concentration. People who are able to focus themselves. And with that focus, they're able to affect a human being. And cause also intense fear. Have you ever been around people who are very focused? They scare you. And some people just naturally, they're scary. They have a kind of ru'b with them, a kind of fear when you're around them. So these magicians, they affected Musa alayhi salam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the very ayat of Surah Taha, in the next 2-3 ayat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the formula of how to be cured from that also. It only requires 2 very unique ingredients to protect yourself against that kind of attack. First, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told Musa alayhi salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the ayat of Surah Taha, فَوْجَسَ فِي نَفْسِهِ خِيفَةً مُوسَى قُلْنَا لَا تَخَفْ إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ الْأَعْلَى. In one ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions both qualities that are needed. One, don't be afraid. Just be firm. When you're not afraid, they cannot affect you. Just control yourself, control your emotions. That's the first thing. The second thing, إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ الْأَعْلَى. Have confidence. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told Musa alayhi salam, إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ الْأَعْلَى. You're going to beat them. You're going to defeat them. You're going to be above them. So what is this teaching us? Be confident. Bas. 2 qualities. One, don't be afraid. And the second, just have that confidence that they cannot defeat you. So this defeats whatever psychic kind of attacks it might have. Okay. Beyond that, there are various ways that we human beings, we go through as far as affecting others. And these sahirin, some of them can become very, very dangerous. They can push people to the point of suicide. It happens. There are cases. Some magician gets involved with a person. If not right away, but in a prolonged period of time, they start affecting the person. This person starts getting disturbed. Then after that disturbance, the person is not able to sleep. Every time he sleeps, he sees a very terrifying nightmare. They cannot sleep. They start losing their sleep. And we know when somebody does not sleep for a prolonged period of time, they're not in their senses. Then the sahir or the magician is able to put ideas in their minds and eventually cause them to go and commit suicide. It doesn't happen in every case. I don't think every suicide goes through this. But those magicians that are involved in that, they're very, very dangerous. They want to see humanity get destroyed. They're affected by the shayateen or the devils. So that is the way to protect yourself against the second type of sihr. One, don't be afraid. That is why even whenever we see a nightmare, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has given us a very beautiful formula. Formula is to spit to your left side, not physically spit, okay? Just this kind of blow spit, 3 times. Okay, you turn to your left side, like this. Don't. You might get thrown out of the house. Okay? But this kind of, why to the left side? Because the shaitan, whenever he does sihr on someone, he ties the knots on their left side. Okay? The knots are tied where? On the left side of the human being. And not only that, shaitan always ties 3 knots, not 1 knot. That is why we spit to the left side 3 times. Why is the spitting effective? You see, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put a kind of cure in the saliva of a human being. It has a type of cure in it. Not only that, for a believer who recites the Quran, the effect of the Quran will come out through what? Either blowing or spit. Okay? So it's kind of like a blow and a spit. It's not a full spit, it's not a full blow. So you blow 3 times, and then what do you say? A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. You say that, and then you also say A'udhu billahi min dhalik. I seek the refuge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from shaitan. And then also, who is ar-rajim, the most rejected one. And I also seek the refuge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from that, meaning that dream that I just saw. The ill effect of that dream. And then we should not share our nightmares with anyone. Right? You should just keep it to yourself. So this is how you protect yourself from shaitan or from nightmares, and also even from the sahir. You just keep yourself very firm and don't be afraid. That's the 2 types. The 3rd type is a little more complicated. We have to go over a full ruqyah. There are specific ayat to be recited. They're recited in a specific way. I'll give you the whole formula. Don't try it. Read it for your own protection, but these are things that you should have an expert around. It's like you sit with a surgeon and a surgeon tells you, okay, this is how you do surgery. Don't attempt it. Right? He's just showing you this is how it's done. Okay? It doesn't mean that you go and you try it. You're going to have problems if you do that. But the formula is there. It is mentioned in the Quran, it's mentioned in the Ahadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's from the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We'll mention those ayat, we'll go over them, how they're recited, specific formula, and then inshallah we will continue with the ayat from Surat al-Baqarah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give all of us the tawfiq to practice the deen. وَمَا عَلَيْنَا إِلَّا الْبَلَاغُ. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. اللهم نور قلوبنا بالقرآن وزين أخلاقنا بالقرآن ونجنا من النار بالقرآن وأدخلنا في الجنة بالقرآن. اللهم اجعل القرآن لنا في الدنيا قرينا وفي القبر مونسا وعلى الصراط نورا وفي الجنة رفيقا ومن النار سترا وحجابا. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. سبحان الله.